The Prime Minister's announced £1.6 billion of support for Ukraine, which will buy the country more than 5,000 air defence missiles.
Back home, Sir Keir Starmer now playing, well, the sort of chief diplomat to get the peace deal signed between President Zelensky and President Trump. But how does he do that after that huge bust-up in the Oval Office on Friday? We are joined by the Armed Forces Minister, Luke Pollard. Very good morning to you, Mr Pollard. How do we get those two back in a room and talking about peace?
Well, it was uncomfortable viewing last week, but what we need to do now is concentrate on what follows, and that is about finding the areas of agreement. And we know that the US president, European leaders and President Zelensky all want peace, all want the killing to end. That's why the Prime Minister convened the summit over the weekend in London that brought together European leaders to step up our support and to discuss what a security guarantee looks like for Ukraine that would stop Russia reinvading if there is peace, and how we can keep Ukraine in the fight today. Because it's good talking about peace, but we shouldn't forget about the war, because at this moment, Russian artillery continues to bombard Ukrainian front lines. Russian drones and cruise missiles continue to be fired at Ukraine's critical national infrastructure, including power stations.
Desperate situation, we all agree. Look, Friday, I want to focus on this because it really was a setback, what happened in the Oval Office. And a lot of people now, including some MPs, saying that President Trump's behaviour towards President Zelensky on Friday should mean that we withdraw the offer we made the day before for a state visit. Now, back in 2017, you yourself wrote to the Prime Minister at the time to oppose Donald Trump's first state visit, citing, amongst other reasons, extremely divisive and hateful behaviour and actions which fall short of the standards required for the privilege of state visit. Do you stand by those principles this morning?
Well, I would certainly give my younger self different advice about how to do some things, but that's certainly, the context has changed enormously. There was no land war in Europe at that time. There is now. It is essential, I think, that the UK fulfills our role as a bridge between our European friends and the United States to find a lasting and durable peace in Ukraine. That includes celebrating and welcoming our friends on both sides of the Atlantic to the UK. An invitation for a state visit has been issued by His Majesty the King. It's something that the government supports, and it will enable us to continue that deep security relationship that we have with the US. They're our closest and most important security partner, and that will continue because American security relies on Britain and Britain relies on American security, and that won't change.
Okay. Can I ask, to get things back on track for those American security guarantees, does President Zelensky need to apologise to the President for what happened on Friday?
Well, I think to get things back on track, we need to have a clear plan that gets to the solution that President Trump wants to see.
Of course, but that wasn't the question I asked. I asked you whether he should apologise.
No, I don't think it's right for me to provide a running commentary on what the next immediate step for President Zelensky to do on this, because ultimately, I think the ability for us to get out of this situation for the Ukrainians and to create a lasting peace is a proper plan that delivers a lasting peace. Okay. Now, I think there are plenty of commentators that will be able to give you a blow-by-blow account of what's happening. There's very few people that will be able to provide an update on the discussions. And that's really where I think, you know, as a government minister, where I'm focusing, where the Prime Minister's been focusing over the last week.
I understand. You don't want to give a running commentary on what Zelensky should do. Lord Peter Mandelson is Britain's ambassador in Washington. He said yesterday that getting these talks back on track is the only show in town. He said that Ukraine should commit to a ceasefire and defy Russia to follow it. You this morning have said that isn't government policy. Can you give a running commentary on whether Peter Mandelson speaks for the government?
Well, Peter Mandelson is our ambassador in the United States.
So he does speak for the government.
Right. In the quote that you have just read out, Ed, he's right in the fact that the Ukrainians want peace. More than any other country on Europe, the Ukrainians want peace. They want the killing to end.
But he said that they should defy Russia and agree to a ceasefire now. Is that government policy?
No, it's not government policy.
So Peter Mandelson doesn't speak for the government?
No, I mean, that's not government policy, but support for a peace deal
so
is.
Peter Mandelson
and that's
did
why
not...
we're working towards one.
So Peter Mandelson got that wrong, did he?
I think he did in this case, but the broad sense here is that we do need to work together with our American friends, because a lasting and durable peace won't be achieved unless we continue to see US support. We know that the US president wants to see an end to the killing, and that's why the UK is playing this role as an honest broker of bringing our colleagues together on both sides of the Atlantic to create not only the support for Ukraine to fight tonight, that means more military support, such as the missile deal that was announced at the weekend, more military aid from our European partners stepping up, but also a readiness from our European allies to provide military forces, to enforce a security guarantee.
So the conclusion of our exchange is that the White House can rely upon Peter Mandelson to speak for government policy most of the time.
Well, Ed, you spent a lot of time working with Peter Mandelson, so you'll know him very well. In this case, that's not government policy, that's not right. But what is right is the general context, which the Ukrainians do want peace, we want peace. We're working with all our allies to try and get to a durable peace settlement. But to do that, we can't forget about the war that's ongoing today, which is why we need to continue stepping up military support.
Sounds like you're giving advice not just to your younger self in 2017, but Peter Mandelson in 2025. And I'm sure he will take note.
Luke Pollard, thank you very much indeed.